So continuing the helicopter theme, I'm going to bring up our third keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel John Schmitt. He is the Cargo Helicopters Program Management Officer for the Army. And I've got to read this first part. He holds a Master's of Science degree in microbiology and immunology from Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where his work leveraged X-ray crystallography for the structural determination and functional analysis of protein neurotoxins. So, of course, the natural next progression is Army helicopter pilot. He's a very interesting character. Lieutenant Colonel Schmitt has seen his share of combat, having served as assault helicopter platoon leader in both Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. He has received numerous awards and decorations for his work in a variety of fields. We're very pleased to have him here today and thank him for his service.
I'm not just here because I have a passion for this industry, but because I'm also a customer. And National Center for Defense Manufacturing Machining has been an incredible partner through a whole myriad of products and projects we've done. And thank you specifically to Gary and Randy for putting up with my crazy ideas and letting me know that they're not so crazy, because they reach out and find incredible professionals like yourselves to solve really complex problems. And that enables me, as a program manager, to get out, do what I think is right at the edge of technology, and deliver better capability to the warfighter. So for that, I just want to say thank you for NCDMM for all you all do. And it is an honor to be here again to talk to you. So, so much like Bill, it's funny, I don't know if we took my notes or something. This is a really powerful name for a symposium, right? So preparing for the next manufacturing revolution. I say that not because I'm trying to lower my bar tab tonight and kiss butt. I'm saying it because this is really, really timely. And it's really, really important that we think about this in terms of defense manufacturing and modernizing, which we have not done holistically as the Department of Defense in some times, not since the 80s. So I wanted to make a really awkward moment. I never really figured out what it looked like. But can anybody guess what this number is? Dean said he'd buy the first round tonight for any table, actually 2 tables around them too, that can guess what 264,000 bytes represents. Anybody? Just guess. What? Okay, close. Yeah, so this represents the average file size of a scanned document. Random piece of information, you're like, John, thanks, your talk's probably going to suck. But we're going to go back to this in a certain point, but I want you to go ahead and anchor on this idea for a second. So, this is my slide, isn't it? This is where rehearsal comes in, huh? There we go. Okay, so my name is John Schmitt. I am the product manager of the Chinook Block 2 program. So we're developing and hopefully delivering the next generation of heavy lift cargo helicopter to the warfighter. We are an ACAT-1 program that consume a lot of the resources and suppliers that you all touch every day. And so get ready for this. We're actually below cost and ahead of schedule. So that is a testament to the incredible team that I'm fortunate enough to work with, but also I think is a testament to what an enterprise, even on a legacy system that we're upgrading tremendously, what the enterprise is capable of doing. It's pretty phenomenal. So is anybody tracking this program, heard about it in Defense News lately? Yeah, it's so I like to think of it as like the Brad and Angelina story. Like it's on again, it's off again, and then whatever. And all I'm hoping is that somewhere down the road, I don't know if you guys noticed, Brad and Angelina are back, or Brad and Jen are back together now. So I'm just hoping it has a happy ending. So before we get started, I do want to say something very sincere from my heart, is thank you for your service. And I say that, and I know that's kind of a weird thing to hear from a guy in uniform. I don't particularly think that my decision to join the military and serve my republic was particularly difficult. I needed money for college. We weren't at war, and God knows I needed the discipline. But you have decided to apply your intellect, your talents, in some way, form, or fashion to the national defense. That's a really powerful thing. What you do is incredibly important. And what I would say is, so far, is to say, okay, am I stepping up the butt kissing? One statement, I need you to hear me very carefully. I believe you and your community alone will ensure the defense of our nation for here on out. And I think that the talk I'm going to give here in a second is hopefully show. Hopefully I don't make too big of a check to cash. But so we have to start with a narrative to explain that. And you never know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And if you look at the Weimar Republic in the 1930s and 1940s, they had invested so heavily in academia and research and technology. Germany was world-renowned, applied physics, chemistry, industrial engineering, bar none. They brought, before the 40s even came around, they had industrialized synthetic rubber and synthetic gasoline, right, on industrial scales. They were feeding the world with the Haber-Bosch process, while here in America, we were trying to figure out, hey, you know what we did? We just figured out how to use air conditioning in a department store in New York City. If you look, literally, if you go Google like 1940 accomplishments, that's ours. And so when the rise of Adolf Hitler occurred and the Third Reich marched on Poland, they were the most technologically advanced society in the world. Because that technology, amplified by a military will to do evil, they did their thing. And so, spoiler alert, they didn't win. National Socialism failed. Democracy reigned. The greatest generation picked themselves up by the bootstraps, and at great cost of blood and treasure, they won the war. Built the institutions that would become secure international trade, human dignity, and rule of law for the world for half a century. It's not a small thing. But coming out of that war, we realized something. So how many were here, was it 3 years ago? I gave a talk. And I gave a chart just like this. And it spurred a lot of conversation. And when I was asked to come, have the honor of come speaking here, I was thinking really hard about what's something topical to think about. Of course, what's more topical than 60 years ago. We did not win that war by technology. We won that war by out-manufacturing. Your predecessors saved the world. I'm not saying that to be cute or glib or exaggerating. Your predecessors saved the world from two expanding empires with evil ideologies. And we are standing here today, the liberties that we have, because your predecessors figured out how to make mass production of products never before seen on the battlefield at higher volumes than ever before seen in the world. That's powerful. That's a very powerful statement. And so I want you to keep in mind that paradigm, right? Technology does not necessarily mean dominance. And the story that I want to share with you is about the narrative of dominance and military dominance. I'm a big fan of our way of life. Freedom, human dignity, rule of law, big fan. Really like to hang on to it. So to me, our dominance is pretty important. So we came out of that war and we said, never again. We're never going to do this ever again. Academia, industry, government got together, and our intelligence community was nice enough to, instead of trying some of these scientists for the war crimes, they should have been, were brought over and were put into key positions: rocketry, materials, medical science, chemistry, biology, and they built the institutions that would make us the only standing superpower that turned the century. So think about that. That's a story of several hundreds of men and women, scientists, engineers, mathematicians, physicists, that were brought over here with suitcases and trunks of documents that would become the largest intellectual property theft in human history, which gave us a 30 to 50-year technological leap over our adversaries, which we've enjoyed for a very, very, very long time. We've had a good run. By all accounts, it's gone. 1 to 2 years, 3, depending on who you ask. We've lost it. It's all but gone. If you think about where we are today, we've spent $6 trillion and 7,000 American lives fighting non-state actors in flip-flops armed with AK-47s and bags of fertilizer. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but think about what we did. Our adversaries have done to us exactly what we did to them, to Russia Federation specifically, 1980 to 88 in Afghanistan. So here we sit, far behind in critical technologies. Not even 1 to 3 years are we overmatching, but we're behind in hypersonics and long-range fires, artificial intelligence, cyber. This is a pretty dire situation that we're in. So I was just going to stop there and just, it's not a really great place to stop. Promise we'll come back up. So I want you just to kind of imagine for a second the amount of volume of paper that would take, right? The intellectual property theft of all of the intellectual property of Germany transferred to America. Let's just say it was 100 billion documents, right? Imagine it bouncing across, the farmlands of France onto ships across the oceans. Enough paper to fill the Superdome 3/4 of the way full, right? That intellectual property, which account for about, so go back to that first slide I had, what was it, 200 and, I see we had engineers in the room. That's great, because I can't remember it. That would account for about 20,000 terabytes of data. 20,000 terabytes of data gave us a 30 to 50 year technological leap that allowed us to be the singular, unipolar power of force, militarily, economically, in the world. Never before in human history. Take that in for a second. 20,000 terabytes. Today, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Beijing and Moscow time, that much data is stolen every 4 hours. Every 4 hours, the amount of data that made us a 50-year superpower is stolen every single day. Whew. Wow. So also, put that into perspective, the world is fundamentally changing, right? You and I, for about $200,000, access to the dark web and an Amazon account, you and I can make weapon systems that were fundamentally unimaginable by industrialized nation states 50 years ago. The world has fundamentally changed. We have democratized technology. We used to, give we still do, sell equipment to our allies. We'd always say, because we put anti-tamper mechanisms in place, we'd always say, hey, we want you to have our capability, but not our technology. Sure, we still have secrets. We're able to keep secrets. But holistically, we've democratized technology. Before the first Joint Strike Fighter unit was fielded, there was one that looked just like it on a tarmac in Beijing. This is a problem set that is real. And you don't even have to take my word on it. Go back through and look at the testimonies of Congress from all of our acquisition executives, all of our defense experts. For the last 6 years, they've all been ringing the same bell. Our defense secretary says, this is the central problem to the defense of the republic. Wow. So I love what Bill said, and I think it's really important. He said, the next revolution in manufacturing solves complexity with speed. That's exactly right. So the picture I've been trying to paint is the paradigm of dominance is no longer about technology. If the pace of a technology is too expensive to chase and the cost to meet it is almost all but free, it doesn't seem quite the right metric to chase in order to maintain dominance. I believe that we're going to maintain dominance by chasing the ability and the speed which we facilitize. The speed at which we're able to manufacture, just like your predecessors, that's y'all. Your ability to get in, not at the pace, not worry about the pace of technology, but the pace at which you can adopt it. That's it. The speed at which we can manufacture is going to be the thing that maintains our dominance in the future. I firmly believe it. Now, nobody in this room would ever disagree. I don't have to convince you that the digital thread's a good thing. I don't have to convince you that generative design is brilliant and important and we should chase it. I don't have to convince anybody here that you should design for efficacy and lethality, not for manufacturing. We can do that, complex designs. I'm here to tell you, we don't get it. We don't understand. We don't get it. I don't know if it's scientific illiteracy. I don't know if it's indifference. I don't know. But what I do know is that it's a human problem. And human problems can be fixed. And that's you. You guys are the change agents. You are the folks, like I said before, you are the ones that will ensure our dominance in the years to come. You are the ones that will ensure the defense of the republic. But it's not easy, and it won't be a short conversation, because we don't get it. Government doesn't get it. A lot of the big OEMs don't get it, right? It's the way we've always done it. You go to a lot of factories that are pumping out stuff today. It's the same factory built in 1974, doing very similar things. But what an immense opportunity. And y'all can do it. And what I ask, and I beg of you to do, I beg, get out, tell your story, show your technology, do the hard sell, do the soft sell. This isn't a technology problem, this is a culture problem. And you have to explain and help people like me who deliver capability to the field understand that design space and move it farther left. Right now, manufacturing is an afterthought. It's the means to the end, not the means that could enable an unimaginable end. Help us understand to move it left into the requirements development, into the design spec. Move it left. It shouldn't be an afterthought. And I know that we are getting better with some of the new systems coming online, but there are 6 main priorities, specifically the Army has right now. All of them are enormous programs that need your intellect and your story on the front side of that development. So with that, I'll say it once again, thank you for your service and what you do. Any questions?
We have a question
Yes,
over
sir.
here.
Colonel Schmitt, you're always inspiring and thought-provoking, so thank you very much.
You're too kind, Ralph. Thank you.
Some of the things that you're talking about the government or the services and so on not getting it,
Yeah.
are because of some of the structure that's in place and some of the things that are incentivized and not incentivized, and in some cases de-incentivized.
All the above.
So, so we have TRLs and we have MRLs, which is great, and Mark can talk to the MRLs in what he's gone through to espouse those. But if we don't have program managers that are looking at, that are incentivized to look at MRLs as well as TRLs, or that aren't incentivized to look at life cycle costs or life cycle issues, I don't see how we're going to be able to have an effect to make that happen.
So it's a very valid point. And what I will say is, at least I can speak from the Army's perspective, is I always used to joke pretty cynically, there's no other Fortune 500 company that would have its research and development under its shipping and receiving, and its futures group under its human resources. It doesn't make sense. So the Army is making this major adjustment, pulling those 2 entities under Army Futures Command. And one thing I realized, I came in as a PM, and we're in the middle, we're the 2009, 10-ish. PMs were flush with cash, and we could pretty much do what we need to do at our discretion. And unfortunately, and that was just me coming in towards the middle of 20 years of conflict where money was flush. And unfortunately, I think that created a culture where we didn't regard the requirements quite as staunchly as we should have. So people that were developing the requirements, we would say, hey, that's great, but we're also going to do this, this, and this. As an enterprise, I think we de-emphasized requirements and moved it to what is the point of need? What do they need right now? And we shifted everything. I think with Army Futures Command specifically, taking those 2 entities and making them under a 4-star command, it re-empowers the requirements community. And since we haven't done it culturally for 20 years, it's going to be something new. But before this dust settles and all the processes lay flat again, it's getting into the requirements community and explaining to them that these are things that need to be considered up front in the initial requirements documents. And I would so far to say that any effect on acquisition policy, required documentation, we have life cycle sustainment plans, we have anti-tamper plans, we have all these other plans. Nowhere in there is a advanced manufacturing plan, right? I mean, we're starting to see little languages pop up in NDAAs, but it's nothing that we can actually action, right? And, you know, this first couple of years where I was just, you know, making it rain on pet projects because I didn't know any better, I was too young in the system, there's too much money around, where we're finding ourselves today is we cannot build, we can't afford to build or put resources towards something that's not a hard requirement. And so by re-empowering the requirements community, I think that's how we get there. And I'm not saying the system right now is not set up for that success, but I think we're shifting that way, and I think folks in this community can help shape that. Answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, you're welcome.
Other questions? Well, Colonel Schmitt, thank you very much for your time.
I sincerely thank you. Appreciate it.
All I can say after that is, wow, I'm both invigorated and scared as hell. So.